Singapore's leading opposition, the Workers' Party, will hold a crucial conference this Sunday to decide on the future of its leadership. Secretary-General Pritam Singh is facing internal calls to step down as party chief, with a potential secret ballot to decide if he retains his post should he not step down voluntarily. This comes months after a letter of reprimand from the party's Central Executive Committee following an internal disciplinary process stemming from his court conviction for lying to a parliamentary committee. And for more analysis, we're joined by Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the SMU School of Law. Eugene, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, how significant is this Sunday's conference? Have we seen anything like this in recent memory?
It's unprecedented. This will be Mr. Pritam Singh's, first challenge, to his leadership. It is significant, but I would be mindful not to overstate or exaggerate its importance. I say that because I believe that Mr. Singh does have the numbers in terms of, the cadres who are backing him to be able to prevail, in the event that, the cadres, some of them, ask for him to step down and he chooses not to, then he goes into a secret ballot, that he will prevail. So it is still important because I think this is an important party process, right, where the cadres can hold the party leaders to account. And of course, this whole issue that started with the lies by then WP MP Raisa Khan in 2021, I think it has been dragging quite a while. So I actually think that the party leadership is very keen, to finally be able to draw a line, on this matter, right? The court cases have ended. Parliament has dealt with Mr. Pritam Singh. And so this internal process, would be the last piece of the jigsaw, if I could put it that way.
Yeah, and how do you think this meeting on Sunday will then affect public opinion in general of the Workers' Party? As you say, they want to put it to an end in that way.
Well, the Workers' Party occupies, in a way, a privileged position, right? They are Singapore's leading opposition party. There is no real serious alternative in the opposition ranks. So I think, people will look at this internal division really as part and parcel of a party that's been relatively successful. And when you look at the WP's record, they have had this sort of, the cadres are actually very active, very vocal as well. So I would say that, it could in some ways strengthen, public perception of the party, but a lot will depend on what happens after both the cadres conference as well as the ordinary conference where the Central Executive Committee will be elected for a 2-year term. I think how the party, closes ranks, I think will have that significant impact on how the public would look at the party, But I do think that, even as there are these internal concerns, I think the time will come where the party will close ranks, and rally behind the new leadership.
Yeah, despite the closing of ranks, as you say, this is the first overt challenge to Mr. Singh's leadership in years. So if he survives this secret ballot, do you think that he might emerge stronger politically, or do you think the damage or some damage has been done?
Well, I think, one cannot deny that the whole saga, right, arising from Ms. Raisa Khan's lies, have impacted the Workers' Party, right? Because it is a reputational damage, right? You had the parliamentary committee of privileges, finding that Mr. Singh had lied, and the court conviction as well. But I would say that, if Mr. Pritam Singh prevails on Sunday, I think in many ways, he would have strengthened his grip. And a lot will then depend, on how, he rebuilds, whatever lost trust and confidence, that the party membership has. So it's, in many ways, I think, we will see that humbling effect. But I think Mr. Singh, being the very wily politician that he is, I think, he will read the right signals. And I think, he will probably rally the party to say that, okay, we have now drawn the line on this issue. Let's focus on the broader political priorities, particularly in preparing for the next general election.
Now, if Mr. Pritam Singh is voted out by the secret ballot, then who do you think would have the political stature, perhaps, to step in and fulfill the role that he's been taking?
Angela, that's something that the party cadres will be thinking very hard about, right? Because you don't replace a leader without someone being able to step up. And so when you look at the party leadership, the elected MPs, I don't think any one of them, has that sort of broad appeal. Any one of them would have the sort of track record, in politics that Mr. Pritam Singh has. So this is something that will be really on top of the mind for the cadres, right? So even if they're unhappy, right, I think the whole process of getting him to account would have that humbling effect. But will they go so far as to oust him, to replace him? I think that will be quite a totally different question altogether, right? So I would say, the asking him to account, reprimanding him, it's actually quite different from. It's not at all to suggest, that the time is right for a new leader.
Now, the Workers' Party had refused PM Lawrence Wong's invitation to nominate a new leader of the opposition. If a new SecGen is appointed on Sunday, is the party likely to take up this seat then, given that you say there's no real leader stepping up at this point?
No, but Angela, you see, if you have a new Secretary General, right, then I think the Workers' Party will take up the offer, right? Simply because the leader opposition position, right, gives the party and the WP leader a lot of political mileage and publicity. And I think they will be quite foolish, not to take up that particular platform. We saw how Mr. Pritam Singh used it to very good effect when he was leader of the opposition. And I think, if there is a new Secretary General, I think we can expect, that the Workers' Party will nominate the new Secretary General to Prime Minister Lawrence Wong for appointment as leader of opposition. But I think until then, all eyes will be on this Sunday. But like I say, I think, there will be the status quo will be maintained. Mr. Pritam Singh has the numbers, but it will be, an important occasion, to see how Singapore's leading opposition party comes together, right, amid, a very challenging last few years.
Eugene, really appreciate your insights.
Thank
That
you.
was Associate Professor Eugene Tan from the SMU School of Law.